Chapter 13. Differentiation of the knower from the known. The Blessed Lord said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the Kshetra, the field, because the fruits of action are reaped in it. He who knows it as his property is the spirit who knows the field." So say those versed in this subject. Know me, O scion of the Bharata race, to be the spirit in all bodies. The knowledge of the distinction between the field and the spirit who knows the field is real knowledge, according to me. Hear from me in brief what the field is, of what nature it is, what its modifications are, and from what causes what effects have sprung. Also know who the spirit who knows the field is, and what his powers consist in. In many and different ways have the rishis sung about this subject in meters of varying description. The well-reasoned and definitive aphorisms of the Brahma Sutras too have discussed it. The 5 great elements, the eye sense, the intellect, and the unmanifested or root matter, the 10 organs along with the mind as the 11th, and the 5 objects of the senses, desire, hatred, pleasure and pain, the body, consciousness, and will. Such is a brief description of the field, with all its modifications. Freedom from self-importance, unpretentiousness, nonviolence, patience, straightforwardness, service of the teacher, cleanliness, steadfastness, and self-control, abhorrence of sensuality, self-effacement, and perception of evil and misery in birth, death, old age, and sickness, detachment from property and family members, non-identification with them and their fortunes, and constant evenness of mind in favorable and unfavorable situations, practice of unswerving devotion through contemplation on me as one's own, resort to solitude, and abhorrence of vulgar company, constant application to the study of spiritual texts and practice of spiritual disciplines, and a clear comprehension of the goal of spiritual enlightenment and the destiny of man. All these described before constitute knowledge. What is opposed to it is all ignorance. I shall now declare the object which ought to be known, by knowing which one attains to immortality. It is the Supreme Brahman, the eternal being who cannot be described either as existent or non-existent. His hands and feet are everywhere. His eyes, ears, and mouth grasp everything. His face is in all directions. He is the transcendent spirit enveloping all that exists in the world. By his power the faculties of the senses function, but sense organs he has none. He is the support of all things, but they do not affect him. He transcends nature and its functions, but these constitute the objects for his enjoyment. He is within and without all beings. Though unmoving, he looks like one moving, because he is everywhere. He is both far and near, far to the ignorant and near to the knowing ones. Owing to subtlety, he cannot be known like gross objects. He, the Brahman, whom aspirants seek to know, is the impartible whole, yet does he seem to dwell in all beings as if divided into many. He is the generator and supporter of all beings, and their devourer too. The self-luminous light of consciousness, revealing even all that is luminous, he is beyond obscuration by the darkness of ignorance. He, the light of knowledge, he, the quest of knowledge, he, the way to whom is knowledge, in the innermost recess of all beings is he established. Thus has been briefly expounded what material nature is, as also what constitutes knowledge, and the object of knowledge. My devotee who understands these verities becomes worthy of my state. Know both Prakriti, nature, and Purusha, spirit, to be beginningless, eternal verities. Know also that all changeful objects and attributes that constitute the world of daily experience are sprung from Prakriti. Prakriti is the cause of the formation and functioning of the body and the senses, while it is the Purusha that experiences pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow. Seated in bodies, which are the products of Prakriti, the Purusha enjoys the objects and qualities born of Prakriti. Attachment to these objects is the cause of the spirit getting embodiments in evil or exalted wombs. In this body, there is also the transcendent and the supreme spirit, who is described as the supreme self and sovereign lord, the unconcerned witness, the sanctioner, the supporter, and the enjoyer. Whoever thus knows the Purusha, spirit, and Prakriti, nature, along with its effects, will never be born again, whatever be his mode of living. There are some who perceive the Atman within themselves by the practice of meditation with a purified mind. There are also others who approach him through the discipline of knowledge or of work. There are still others who, being unfit to follow the disciplines described before, for they lack the knowledge of the Yoga Shastra and the Vedas, adopt forms of worship under instruction from teachers or elders. Full of faith in these instructions heard, and following them sincerely as their only refuge, they too certainly overcome the cycle of births and deaths. O thou the best of the Bharata clan, whatever there is born, whether moving or unmoving, it has come into being due to the union of body and spirit. He really sees who perceives the Supreme Lord alike in everything, as the imperishable substance abiding amidst perishing phenomena. For he who perceives the Lord's presence alike everywhere no longer works against his own spiritual well-being by mistaking the ego for the true spiritual self, as men in ignorance do. He therefore attains to the supreme goal. He is the real seer who perceives that Prakriti alone is doing all works, and that the Atman, the true spiritual self, is the actionless witness. When one perceives the manifold objects as centered in the One and as evolved from it as well, then he attains Brahman. That highest self, being the immutable and unoriginated spirit beyond nature, is free from all action and stain, though dwelling in the body. Just as the all-pervading sky, because of its subtlety, is not stained by anything, so this Atman, though abiding in all bodies, is never affected by any impurity. Just as the single sun illumines the whole universe, so the one indwelling spirit enlivens all bodies. Whoever perceives by spiritual insight the distinction between nature and spirit, as also the freedom of the spirit from the hold of nature, they reach the Supreme.